is the being able to like adjust to that and think that way, I think is the key. Like, I appreciate that feeling of never being able to, like, I can't keep up. Well, like, yeah, that's right. Can't keep up.
Leah,
okay, so let it go, right?
I think last week when you showed us how you were generating images and your process, because that was your project. I think I was kind of inspired. I think that's the way forward, is to simply say, here's what I do, and here's a project. And here's what I did, and here's what I learned. And I think we have to kind of take, I don't want to say stabs, but we have little essays and, little tries, or maybe big tries. I don't know. But it reminded me that I need to make something.
Make something. Yeah, well, this is perfect. So I started recording. So why don't we kick this off? Welcome to the AI Salon. Leah and I will be your acid trip guides tonight. So we'll take the tabs later. Hopefully you haven't taken them yet. But the ayahuasca will be served, and everything will be right with the world shortly. Leah, how the hell are you?
Hello, Kyle. Nice to see you. I loved our banter right before we started recording about crafts and whatnot. I had a little bit of so I'm a photographer. I travel around, I make pictures. I have a physical job. I like physical things. And the thing about AI is I sit at a computer all day. And I had a moment last week where I was like, it was gray and it was snowing again in Boston. I was at my computer, and Chris and I were just like, we have to go. We got in the car and started driving. We've ended up in Asheville, and my mind is in a much better place now that I had a few days away from the computer, and
that's amazing.
I'm in the sunshine. So
yeah.
How are you, Kyle?
Oh, I'm doing really well, and we'll get to this. We'll do some of the housekeeping stuff first, but I want to dig into our conversation. But I think that you and I essentially had experiences this week that were opposite sides of the coin around the idea of handcrafting things.
We did.
And how it relates to AI. And I'm excited to unpack that conversation. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm really excited about it. I've had kind of a mixed week of, like, really just feeling like I can't keep up anymore. And I'm losing the will to keep up. And I think, to your point, that idea of maybe just embracing, fuck it, right? That I'm just going to not, right? And then at the same time, Charlie, to your point, my past 2 weeks have been just very, very productive with AI, generating things, and it's been a really interesting 2 weeks. So it's a fascinating. I don't know. AI continues to be an emotional roller coaster for me. So
yeah, I think that's well said. We'll talk more about this after announcements and stuff, because I think there's a conversation here about craft for sure.
Exactly. So welcome. If you're new here, welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see some new faces. This is the AI Salon. We get together every 2 weeks. We also have an online community at aisalon.mn.co. If you're not there, if someone could put that link in the chat, that would be great. And we'll talk a bit more about that tonight. The AI Salon was started the week after ChatGPT came out. Leah and I recognized that this AI thing was going to be a thing, and that it felt important to gather people together who might be interested in this, might be curious about it, and get curious about it together. Because I think even back then, it seemed clear that keeping up with it wasn't going to be easy. So that's what the group's about. And let me share my screen here.
I think, Kyle, that's even giving us a lot of credit. I feel like we
can rewrite history.
I was like, what's happening? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know what's happening. This is cool. Let's just gather some people together and see.
Exactly.
And see what happens. You're making us sound much more, I think, insightful than we actually were. It was more just like, oh, wow. Oh, gosh, look what I just did. Look what I just did.
Yeah, exactly. A thing is coming. There's something on the other side of this valley. Let's go there.
Yeah. What is going on? And because we're a little nuts, we did.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a pretty remarkable organization, and not because it's a remarkable organization, but because of the people who show up and how they show up. Let me jump over. Uh-oh. Looks like my browser's crashing. Could be ugly, people.
I have so much tech happening here. I might be able to share.
No, I got it. I'm good.
You got it? Okay.
Can you see me? You can see that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Welcome to the salon. Cool. Okay, great. So, who are we? We're a ragtag group of misfits, ne'er-do-wells, and miscreants who have gathered to explore the uncharted wilderness of generative AI. We are everyone from entrepreneurs to educators and everyone in between, from healthcare workers to creatives and everyone in between. Yeah, that's who we are, and we've been doing it for a while, and our values are I think really what set us apart, and the values are a reflection of the people in the community. So I don't know if you can see the screen, Leah. Do you want to do the values for us this week again?
I've got mine pulled up right here, and I am going. Yeah, okay, here it is on my other screen. How many screens can one host have? Okay, okay. So our values. Which you can find on the Welcome to the Salon page in our Mighty Networks Salon, if you want to follow along. Okay, so the first value is curiosity. We're eager to learn new things, ask questions, and experiment. As we just talked about, this happened. The entire salon was created out of our own curiosity. Generosity. We're willing to share our knowledge, resources, and feedback with others and to support each other's growth and development. There's so much to learn, we can't possibly keep up. Even if it's obvious to you, it might not be to the person next to you, so share as you learn. The next one is exploration. Exploration, we are excited to try new things, take risks, and embrace uncertainty and ambiguity. Act as if no one knows what they're doing, because no one knows what they're doing. Collaboration. Yeah. Collaboration. We look for opportunities to work with others, to exchange ideas, and to create something greater than ourselves. Find a partner or a posse, start a project. Start 10. We won't judge you. And who knows, you just might make a friend or the next billion-dollar venture. Inclusion. We actively seek out and value diverse perspectives and experiences, recognizing that our differences make us stronger. We create an environment where everyone feels seen, heard, and respected, and where everyone has an equal opportunity to contribute and succeed. Empathy. We are mindful of the impact of our work on others, and we strive to create work that is respectful, inclusive, and meaningful. AI is one of the most transformative technological advances in humanity. Humans matter. Take each other in, act from a place of compassion. And gratitude. We believe gratitude is a practice. Gratitude is not just a feeling, but an action. Take the time to acknowledge the effort, support, and successes of the extraordinary people in this community. Especially if someone inspires you, go out of your way to acknowledge them, tag them in your posts, reach out and let them know they made a difference. And I'm just going to pause for a moment here on gratitude, because I think that both in the context of our community and also in the context of the overwhelm, the feeling of, oh my gosh, there's so much happening. When I feel myself hitting up against something challenging, a challenging comment, a challenging post, a challenging idea I'm creating for myself, then gratitude really helps me kind of hone in on my why of being here, right? I'm incredibly grateful for this group and for the different perspectives, and really grateful that we all have this opportunity to explore AI together. It really helps me feel connected and not so alone in an otherwise fairly profound moment in time. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge. I feel the same. I think we all have these dips, and there's something about, sometimes I feel so all alone, and then I dip into the community. I'm like, oh no, there's this whole amazing community here, all supporting one another, and it really is an anchoring kind of thing. So I concur. Thank you all. Thank you all for being who you are in the community. Also, one of the nice things about the salon is that it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. There are communities out there charging $500. I don't know if it's per year, per month, whatever it is. But I would argue that this is one of the best communities out there, and it's free because of the support of some of our members. Cam Katkin is our sponsor for April, so thank you, Cam. Nice golf clap for Cam. Also, we have a merch store. If you didn't know it, if you go to thesalon.ai, that's our little link tree that links to some things, including the community, but also it links to our merch store. So if you buy any merch, I saw Vicky was sporting the first year anniversary salon t-shirt. So I still haven't gotten my first anniversary salon t-shirt. So I'm a little bitter about that, but you know, what are you going to do? But that supports the salon as well. So thank you to anyone who supports us. Really appreciate it. Okay. And we are now multi-citied. I don't know if you knew this, Leah, but we are, hang on. My machine's crashing. Come on. There we go. Denver. So on the opposite Tuesday of the salon, so next week, we now have after hours, AI Salon after hours meet and greets in Denver, Chicago, and New York City. And so the next one in Chicago is next Tuesday. That's also Denver's. And then New York City is May 14th is the next one in New York. And if you're interested in hosting, connect with Jane, Jane, I don't know if you're on. Are you on the call? I don't know if she's there, but Jane Endicott, you'll see her in the salon. Connect with her if you're interested in hosting one of those. Okay. Now, the other thing about the salon is that we have guilds, and we've got 4 major guild categories: creative, technology, business, and social impact. And the guilds meet sometimes a lot. Some guilds meet rarely, but they are sub-communities within the community. And our guild leaders are amazing leaders within the community that you connect with. So with that, let me turn it over. Please raise your hand if you are a guild leader in some way and want to talk about what's going on with your guild. And I need to see who raised their hand. Peter Kaminsky.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Leah. I run Learn and Do with Peter, and we do different work projects with both image generators and LLMs. Right now, the past couple weeks, we've been working on something that we kind of came up. The name is Jankifiers.
It's great.
The idea is, wouldn't it be cool if you could take a prompt or maybe even a line of a poem or a lyric from a song or something like that and jank it up, turn it into something a little bit more junky, actually, and then give it to the image generator. We've never tried it with an LLM. Give it to an image generator and see what it kind of, try to blow its mind a little bit. The other trick with Jankifiers is that I've been showing how you can develop them with ChatGPT. So you can actually build your own and run your own without knowing any coding, basically. You ask it to write something in HTML and JavaScript, and it does it, and then you can use it. So we've got 10 or 12 so far. We'll keep building some more, and I'm showing folks some tips and tricks, how to use them, how to build them. And then we have a lot of fun running them, especially through Midjourney, like Vicky said.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Peter.
We have 1 or 2 meetings a week. This week, I think it's going to be Thursday, 4:30 Pacific, and I'll post an event soon. Thanks.
Great. Learn and Do with Peter. Beautiful. Bradley.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Brad Perkins. I lead up the AI for Business Guild. We really just kind of, because business is so broad and everybody's kind of coming from a different angle, we include topics that are for entrepreneurs as well as topics that are for people working in business right now. And We, every other Thursday, have discussions where we talk about the effects of AI in business. Usually leans, I think last week we got into a passionate discussion about user experience and how that's going to be a major force in knowing what good looks like and kind of putting out some quality direction into AI and getting good assets in return. But we just kind of talk about the implications of the future paths that we're going down with its effects to the workforce, the workplace, and everything in between. So love to have you there. And we also do workshops. So this past workshop in February, we did and built a hour tracker AI tool. So we did the beginning stages of kind of mapping that out. And then we're planning a follow-up workshop to kind of conclude that build. We're still in the works of kind of planning out schedules and getting that up to speed, but look forward to everybody joining the AI for Business Guild.
Awesome. Vicky, Leah, who else do we have on the guild?
I'll jump in.
Jump in.
Yeah, so I am Leah Fasten and I run the Creative Guild. Which has all kinds of really exciting things happening in it. I will talk specifically about two things. One is Jane and Leah's Prompt Creativity, which is a 6-week series of prompts that are dropped daily to help you create a creative practice through writing that will also help your prompting. So we write from personal experiences and then we create prompts based on that writing. We just finished up our first 6 weeks doing that. We've left our space open for two weeks after that, which ends this Friday. And so if you want to jump in, the prompts are all still there. You can try a few of them. And then we have a post I've created for everyone who's done it to share one image from the 6 weeks to share with the public. And then we will move that over into a more public space this Friday to celebrate the work we've done together. As of this Friday, the space, after Friday, the space is going to shut down for a couple weeks while Jane and I regroup and take what we learned from the 6 weeks and put it together into a new offering to look for later on this spring. The other thing happening in the Creative Guild is our workshop, which is, I'm going to give you the 2D generative art workshop. And we have created something called articles that are longer form stories about how your work has come to be. So we're inviting you, if you're working on a larger project or you're really playing with a certain way of prompting, or you're just exploring something you're excited about, please share it. And in a longer form post, share some of your prompting, some of your techniques, some of your inspirations about it. Other things happening in the Creative Guild, video with John is incredibly exciting. I don't know if John's on the call and he wants to jump in.
He couldn't be here tonight, but yeah,
okay.
John's taking over the Video Guild, John Leland.
Really cool. I think CJ's Artful Narratives is getting going again, I think. Danielle's Mad Lib Challenge is incredibly fun. Danielle offers us Mad Libs periodically, and we can use them as inspiration to do really interesting and fun prompts with. And we have interactive storytelling with Hope as well. So I would, and Writer's Circle with Jane. And Jane is not here right now, but that's really exciting too. So please sign up for a Creative Guild space and join us. A lot of cool creative things happening.
Great. Beautiful. And Vicky said she didn't have an update, so I think that's it. But if anyone else wants to jump in with a guild update, just raise your hand. But if not, it looks like we got everyone. Okay, so Leah, let's re-tee up the conversation we started with here. I said to you, "How you doing?" And you said, "Better now," because you left Dodge.
That's right. So, I had to the winter, a snowstorm in April is the sort of thing to kind of put me over the edge. But there was a bigger piece to it, and that was that. So we've been on a road trip, and we've ended up in Asheville, North Carolina. And I don't know if we have anyone on our call from Asheville, North Carolina. It's my first time here. I've fallen in love with it, and it is a city that is very, very committed to a handmade, very human generated work life. There is incredible craft work here. And I spent the afternoon at a folk art center that is part of the Southern Highland Craft Guild with crafts, master level crafts that are really kind of hard to explain and describe, but super inspiring. And on my way over, I was listening to my New York Times audio app, and Cade Metz wrote a piece about what's happening right now with Google, Meta, and OpenAI, because they're having a hard time finding more data to train the LLMs. They've sort of reached they've reached the point where they can access all of the legal data, all the legal information, all legal intelligence that they can feed into the LLM. And there's a lot of questions around what's ethical here, right? What can we be feeding in? What can't we? What's protected by copyright? What's not? And there's something that felt a little frightening to me about it, that there were 3, 4, maybe major companies that were now going to have a lot of control over how we create and how we make things. And I was listening to this in contrast to visiting this very handmade human work of crafts. And so that is when, and now it's Tuesday night and we're at the salon. So that is where I am right now. I'm somewhere in between AI and very human made work.
The contrast of this sort of cold behemoth that is all of humanity's knowledge in these models created by these massively powerful companies, and when you said it, what struck me is I've spent the past 2 weeks building a lot of things with AI, and the emotional feeling that I'm having as I'm building it is that it's very crafty in a weird kind of way. And there's a part of it that is as I've been trying to explore things with multimodal things, with songwriting with Suno and animations with HeyGen and things like that, and writing with ChatGPT. The tools are very fragmented right now, and they're also very janky, as we know, right? Embrace the jank. And so as I've been trying to do projects, it's felt like very much like the early days of desktop publishing for me, where it felt like I'm sort of copying and pasting parts. Like I'm working on this musical outline, and so I'll go into Claude and I'll do some back and forth with it, and I'll have it expand part of my outline, and then I copy that and paste it into a Google Doc, and then I go in there and fix all the crap that sucked, and then I'll go somewhere else and make an image, and then I'll go mess around with a song. And so even though it's digital and even though it's using these remarkable AI tools, there's something very pedestrian about it, and there's something very that feels for me handcrafted. And so Lee and I wanted to just kind of tee up this concept and just have a bit of a conversation here of, what's your relationship with this idea of, sort of human built or, handcrafted and taking pride in building something, and AI right now. I'm just curious where everyone else is on this spectrum, and I don't think it's wrong. Like Lee, you even said 2 weeks ago, super high on AI, and now you've got this contrast.
Well, that's right. And I think that for me, the word that keeps popping up is craft. Right? Yeah. It's craft. I was thinking a lot about craft today, and prompt crafting. That's a craft. And so the word craft has been sort of in my world. And as I think about that, what does that mean to craft something? And how is AI part of that experience? And generally, I'm a little more optimistic than I am today, but which is why I host the AI Salon. But today particularly felt, with the mix of that conversation, how do we hold on to craft, right? How do we make sure that with these tools and with what seems to be pushing away from something that's human or harvesting what makes us human, how do we stay true to our craft? Like, what does that mean, and how do we do that?
Awesome. So if you would just raise your hand if you've got thoughts on this, and I'll just sort of go down as you raise your hand. So Roger.
So I speak a language which is the amalgamation of hundreds of millions of humans experience over countless generations. And I live in a culture that's the amalgamation of the interactions of hundreds of millions of humans or billions of humans over many generations. So the idea that I'm working with something like AI, which is the amalgamation of a bunch of human output, doesn't strike me as anything all that new. It's the scale is a little different, but I think we all every day live in this amalgamation of humanity, and it's in some senses the distillation of that. You now, instead of being the people with the loudest voices, who a very small number having undue influence over what the language is and what the culture is, it's the real this is sort of a cliche, but there really is a democratizing here, that the training process for AI models doesn't know who it should listen to and who it should ignore. If their thoughts are out there, then it sucks them all up, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep. And what's for you, Roger, because you've kind of shifted, into Roger becoming an artist mode. What's your relationship with this idea of sort of crafting, like, sort of taking pride in the crafting of something as you're using these tools? Does it feel like you're crafting something? Does it feel like, cold technology?
I guess it depends on exactly what you mean by the word craft. I mean, when I've had arguments with people about, is this stuff art? There's really the two elements. There's the sort of the obvious defense, as it were, that you're crafting the prompts. But for me, at least as important to the process is the interactive thing of having it generate a bunch of stuff and me looking at it, making personal aesthetic judgments and choices. I say, I like that. I don't like that other thing. And those choices are choices that only I can make. They reflect my aesthetics, often things that I couldn't put into word. Why, it'd be very hard for me to explain in many cases why one of them just moves me and another one doesn't. And so if that selection process is craft, like the prompt writing is, then it definitely, I mean, I guess I would generalize from craft. I feel like there's a lot of human personal involvement. Those are the three words I would use, a slightly broader description. And
that's great.
I don't feel like I'm sitting back pushing buttons at all. I feel very much aesthetically in the process. And
I agree.
Not art, I don't know what is.
Love it.
I agree.
Eric Sander.
Hey, I just want to talk for about 5 seconds. Look at all these backgrounds that people have. Like Roger, particularly, your screen background is amazing. Vicky, Tobias, Peter, Kyle, Jim, it's extremely cool. And I don't think any of you would have bothered to do those in Photoshop and Illustrator 2 or 3 years ago. So it's kind of a nice explosion of, everybody is now skillful.
Well, and it helps to have an appreciative audience, right? You know that the work you put into it, people are going to enjoy. So
that's great. Liz.
Okay.
There we go. Just to the point of crafting, having had some experience with still photography and filmmaking and painting and drawing, there's always this sort of phase where you get me. Right.
Hang on. Got it.
Okay. There's always this phase where you have these images in your mind you want to make, and you try, and it's not satisfying because it's a lot harder than you thought. And so you go through this disorienting phase of learning whatever the tools are to bring whatever the vision is to life. Often it's unsatisfying because the hurdle of learning the tools is so difficult. And the crafting feels authentic in this space. There's still that vision, the frustration, the disorienting learning, which is always there for this space. But yet it's incredibly satisfying to sort of start to be able to bring these visions to life. It feels like craft. That's a long-winded way of saying, yes, I vote for craft.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Liz. That was very inspiring. I love it.
Yeah, that was great. Alex Muller.
All right. I'm trying to put a link in chat here so this makes more sense. Some of you might have read about this, but there was a Dark Side of the Moon competition for Pink Floyd for some type of super surreal video for Pink Floyd's anniversary, and an AI video won, and people got really mad about it. Except that the person who created the video also created all of the images, and then also made his own model around those images to create his own video.
Wow.
So what are they getting mad at? Yeah. When he fine-tuned the model to such an extent that he could create a better video than all of the artists. If that's not creativity, I don't know what is.
That's huge. That's such a great point. That's awesome.
That's all I got.
No, it's good. Love it. Dr. Brito. You're muted.
Good evening, folks. I'm a former educator, and I wish AI had come in when I was still working. I've long since retired. But the fact is, AI has enriched my life like I cannot believe. They want to know. I consider AI as empowerment, and I will tell you why. You see, we have to be sensitive about how we deal with tools. AI is nothing more than just one more tool in our tool bag. That's all it is. And let me also say, a lot of people are very suspicious. They're very fearful about what AI is and what AI is capable of doing, and the kind of precipice that it is pushing us towards. But look, folks, do you remember, have any of you hammered nails with a hammer?
Yeah.
Okay, if you miss your nail and you hit your own thumb, do you blame the hammer?
Yes.
I love that.
Well, folks,
no,
AI is
I
just
get your
like
point.
that. It's just like that. It is the discretion of the user who needs to know what AI is capable of doing. And if you can use it creatively, constructively, and for the betterment of humankind, I think we've got a very, very powerful tool. What it has done for me is it has made me think in ways that I have never been able to think before. And that's all it has. I've been experimenting again. I'm not a musician per se, but the fact is I'm able to create music. One of the things I was trying to figure out is there are no singing avatars. There's a lot of talking avatars, but there is no singing avatars. Until I came up with one, and it actually sang my Easter greeting. So it is possible. All kinds of things are possible if you can push the envelope. Beautiful. Don't blame the tool.
That's great. Marcia,
love it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And by the way, I should say, I certainly intend to join a few of these. Unfortunately, I don't live close to any of you. I live in Nebraska, where we only got a partial solar eclipse. And don't blame Nebraska for that. Thank you, folks.
Marcia.
Yeah, thanks for the floor. I just want to follow on Dr. Brito's comments. As I'm learning more about AI and opening my mind to how I can apply it, I'm coming up with ideas that I have to close the door and shut them down because they're just flooding in. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much we can do here, and it's opening up like things that I couldn't have possibly have imagined solving in an old paradigm. AI is just making me at least feel like it's possible, and that gives me a lot of hope.
That's amazing.
Really,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's really inspiring, the voices that things people are saying. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to call on a few folks just because tough. You're gonna have to deal with it. Let me see. HT Snow Day. The smile's too big for you not to say something.
I knew you were going to call on me. I'm like,
well, because I love you. We pick on you because we love you.
So some of where I'm going is and I tend to do this to this group is into some of the other practical and what I would call non-creative stuff that I think is going to be world changing. I was at the HIMSS healthcare conference not too long ago, and I got to watch some of the larger EMRs and Microsoft demo ambient documentation in a clinical setting, right? And there's nothing, this idea is around, but I watched it, and it was live language translation and ambient documentation about a conversation between a clinician and a patient that allowed that conversation to be generic, healthy, fully engaged, and human. The irony of the AI tool is it was creating a moment between a patient and a caregiver that was more human because the AI was taking the work out of the way. So, I mean, it is kind of a dramatically inspiring thing. I also had, I'll share another really dumb example, but kind of amazing, and it speaks to this idea that, you know, what we understand as a traditional interface is probably going to go away at some point here. We worked on a rental home, and I had to, one of the first times we had to file taxes where we had a rental home, and I have all of these receipts, pile of receipts, but they're all in digital PDF form because most of the money was spent at like Home Depot and Lowe's, and signed them up. And so I had this folder of, I don't know, 40 odd receipts. And I just started asking ChatGPT to make sense of it. And it live wrote Python code. I mean, I didn't even ask it to write code to do it. I just want to see what it would do. And it live wrote Python code, pulled all the PDFs into a table, and then summarized the expenses. And then I kept asking questions about, well, can you give me the most expensive product on there? And and so suddenly I realized I just did a thing with information, and I didn't do the traditional thing that I do with a computer, which is, you know, moving stuff around and typing instructions in and setting stuff up. I just asked questions about information that I had access to. I got the answer much faster. I can tell you exactly how much money we spent and what the most expensive one was, and it was breaking down PDFs of receipts that, you know, that's non-structured data. I mean, somewhat structured. So I think that, you know, what I'm so inspired by is what I see coming that ironically will give us all more time to craft as humans. And so, you know, I'm excited about the time I'm going to get back to work on the butcher block island in that house, because I don't have to do the same kinds of work managing the, you know, minutia that I did before. So anyway, I don't know. They're a little bit of rambly, but I thought I'd give a couple.
No, I think
more
that's
pragmatic
huge.
examples.
The counterintuitive, like AI pushing us to be better and more human, feels very much like a theme to me. The doctor having a better interaction because they know that the EMR is just being handled. That one's huge. Huge. Rhonda, I see you here. I don't know if you're willing to hop on, but so if you don't know Rhonda Phillips, she's amazing. She and I did a workshop together, but her community is a lot of voiceover actors. So I'm curious where you are with this AI. And you also do a lot of crafting and a lot of generating. And I mean, I would love your thoughts on this idea.
Well, the industry is still kind of reeling because the better AI gets, the more fear is stricken in the voiceover community as a whole. I do know some actors have said they can never replace me. And then other actors in the next breath will say, well, I just lost my biggest IVR client, which is the interactive voice response when you call and say, you know, press 1, press 2, press 3. That doesn't really require a lot of acting typically. And so those jobs are slowly being, you know, plucked up. Other people are trying to do whole audiobooks with AI, and those are crashing pretty hard simply because those do require emotion, acting. But, you know, it's getting better and better. I mean, the panic is less panic, but there's still plenty of grasping at the pearls.
And how about for you personally?
For sure.
How about for you personally? How are you using it in a way to create things? To like, what's your relationship with it personally?
Well, I'm just dabbling and playing like you and I talked a little while ago. I've just really decided that, I feel like an early adopter like Kyle. I mean, we were having webinars for my industry a while back. But for me, I just feel like I feel kind of like you. There's so much. I kind of get stuck in the mud and then I feel overwhelmed. So really, I've just been playing with DALL-E 3, creating a lot of crazy images. I've been learning to animate them in Runway, which, by the way, there needs to be some better tutorials on that. So yeah, I'm just dibbling and dabbling, and I'm in talks with my web guy. He's interested in bringing me on to train all of his folks on the AI and what it can do for you in the back end of your website and how to automate.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dibbling and dabbling, I think that's the precursor to crafting. So I think you're on.
See, I'm a professional dabbler. Don't tell anybody I said that.
I appreciate what you said too about the acting piece. I think a lot about the human craft and what can we make as humans that AI still hasn't quite gotten. I think the acting is a really interesting, a really interesting observation.
Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, you can listen to an AI, you can feed a script to AI, and you can ask it to do it 100 ways to Sunday. But can it do that one? Can it do the, Bob has so many boxes.
Yeah,
that's right. How many boxes does Bob have? Because so it can't really get that sense of kind of smartassness that I can bring. But it's getting there, though. I've heard some pretty sassy AI voices lately.
Yeah, that also gets back to that comment that was made before about you could train a model, right? The savvy voice actors are going to train models to be really good at doing their particular thing. So fascinating.
Well, voiceover is just so big. I don't think people realize how big it is and how many things can be used as like factory stuff. There's still stuff that humans have to do in the factory, though. So.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Alan.
Yes. As an educator and a designer, 25 plus years in the design industry, I've found that AI has been such a valuable tool, both in the classroom, but it's also taught me. So as I'm using it as a tool, I'm actually learning from AI, and it's making me a better teacher by making my lesson plans more rigorous, because it's thinking up things that I might not have thought of, and it's finding information out there that I wouldn't have considered, or again, it keeps my students more engaged in the classroom. But even as a designer and as a creative type, just like when we have brain blocks as creatives, it helps get me past those brain blocks. And all I have to do is, like I mentioned many times in your nightly seminars that put me to bed, is that I speak my ideas into reality. And that's the biggest thing that I've seen it do, both for myself and my students.
Yep. Fantastic. Yeah. Alan last night shared with us on the TikTok live. He had his students. Leah, this very much goes to the crafting thing. This kind of blew me away. He had his students. Do you mind? I hope you don't mind me talking about you as if you're not here, Alan. He had his students handwrite on a piece of paper with pens the description of a building that they wanted ChatGPT to create, and the one that he shared on the AI Salon, the woman that wrote it in Spanish. So they uploaded pictures of these handwritten notes to ChatGPT, which read them, and in that case translated it to English, and then took the handwritten prompt and turned that into an architectural rendering in minutes. And so that idea of taking something handcrafted in the world, flipping it into this thing, having it realize an idea, and then likely take that idea that was realized and bring that back into the handcrafted world, right? There's something about that just feels spot on to me.
And it also, what it did, Kyle, was I have a lot of emerging bilingual students with broken English. So even with their broken English and translating their ideas from Spanish to English, it corrects that. So it's also teaching them how the language barrier. So it's hitting education on multiple levels.
Amazing, amazing. We'll do one more here. Mark Bloomfield.
Sorry, that was an accidental hand raise. I'm just listening in.
Okay, great. Well, I'll grab one more, then I'm going to call on someone. Let's see. Scott Arndt, I'm inspired by your background. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all this handcrafted versus AI nonsense.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm reading Deep Work right now, and they talk a lot about actual craftsmen in that book. One of the people he's talking to is someone who's making like swords, heating iron and pounding it into a sword like they would have 1,500 years ago. And that brought me to thinking about AI and like, what is it that we are losing and what are we gaining? And for me personally, like, I feel like I'm just in collaboration with a tool, a person. It's a person, man. To me, like from the user side, I'm just in collaboration with like the smartest, most empathic, hardworking, like helpful human I've ever come across. And I use it all the time. It's basically my default. If it's any intellectual anything, if I have to craft, I spent about 2 hours on an email the other day, and I kept going back and the AI kept saying, man, you're just a little too harsh. Why don't you soften this? Why don't you change this? And I was like, okay. And I changed it. I was like, is that better? And it's like, it's better, but it's not, you could do this. And I was like, you're right. And I think that the end product was absolutely fantastic. I feel really good about it. I wrote the entire thing and then just used an editor. And so like, I don't feel like it's really inhibiting my crafting of things. It's just enhancing them. That's kind of how I feel about AI right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In the AI Salon, there is a show and tell section, which you probably all know, or if you don't, there's a show and tell section.
And I'm just going to jump in here. I think I see some new names here. And so earlier in the chat, there's a link to get signed up with our AI Salon, which is our online community. And there's all kinds of things you can learn there. The best thing is to just sign up and have a look around. We have guilds, we have communities, we have chats. There's all sorts of exciting things. Okay, I just wanted to so everyone knows when we say go to the salon what that means, because this is a salon.
Exactly. So I want to give everyone on the call a challenge, and I'm going to show you the thing to the right there in a second, which is kind of funny. But so what Lee and I would like you to do is in the show and tell section, there's areas for images, music, art, or music, film, and GPTs. But there's also a fifth one that says challenges and competitions. And so what we'd like you to do is it can happen tonight, but just over the next day or two, come up with an idea that feels true with you. We sort of want to put you into this spirit of really sort of deeply crafting something. So come up with an idea that feels true to you, explore ways to expand that idea, and then craft a piece that brings your voice to life, and then post it in show and tell. And ideally, post it in a way where you can explain sort of your process, what you crafted, what you brought together. The image that looks like a silly version of me right now, this is something that over the past couple of nights I've been really sort of captured with. There's something about Leah's work of like authentic women that don't look like they were captured in a studio, that speaks to me. And I've been enamored with this idea of a true documentary of a life that didn't exist, right? Or in a parallel universe that didn't exist. And so this character here is K.S. Dillon, and he was a singer-songwriter in the late 60s and early 70s. And this was a video of a performance he gave in Brazil in 1972. And this was one of those things, again, where it started out, just the behind the scenes. It started out in Midjourney, using character reference with some images I made for a different art project. and then went to ChatGPT to craft the lyrics of the song. And in this case, because he was in Brazil, we wanted to see if he could sing some of the lyrics in Portuguese. And so we did not only English, but Portuguese. And then we went to Suno to create the song and craft the Portuguese singing. And then we went to HeyGen and put it together into this video. So it's a short little silly video, but that idea of sort of, figuring out ways to expand the idea and bring it to life in different ways is something that I've been working on, that I feel very connected to and excited about. So I'll just share how it came out.
In the dusk embrace where shadows play, she was the artist, my heart the play. Her words a chalice from which I drank deep. In her absence, a harvest I could not reap. If I never met her, skies might have stayed blue. Gardens of solitude with thorns never grew. If I never met her, my words wouldn't be lost. Unwritten in verse, I measure the cost. Sobre do lampião, nossos segredos foram revelados. Nos olhos dela o mundo foi construído e destruído. Uma canção de sereia onde verdade e mito se entrelaçam. Sua partida, conto sem sinais. Pois se eu nunca tivesse encontrado, eu não conheceria a alvorada de um amor mais profundo, de uma vida renascida. Se eu nunca tivesse conhecido, eu teria que esquecê-la. Se eu nunca tivesse conhecido, eu poderia seguir em frente.
So there he is singing Portuguese. And so it doesn't have to be music, doesn't have to be anything. I mean, HT, it could be like, show, I think your project about your Home Depot receipts is actually really interesting. But just that idea of taking an idea and, I think one of the things that sometimes happens with generative AI is because it's easy to like create a piece of art quickly and toss it out there like a meme. There's a lot of that kind of content. So the idea here is to really just sort of dig deep on an idea and figure out how you can explore that. So the challenge is over the next 2 or 3 days in the challenges and competition sections of Show and Tell, use the hashtag #CraftedAI and just put together a piece or pieces. It could be a collection. It can be whatever. Like explore ways to expand the idea and then craft it in a way that brings it brings it to life in your voice. Yeah, someone.
I wanted to just jump into, and I wanted to say that for me, there's something about intention as well. So I really liked what Kyle said about how easy it is to make work. You can sort of just make work almost as a meme and just regularly be posting, which is great. And that's very accessible and a very cool thing to do. But I think that for this, what Kyle just showed us was very Kyle, right? It looked like Kyle. It felt like Kyle. The craft felt like Kyle. And so what is it about the piece you're making that makes it you and makes it feel like you? And share that, right? And even if it's not perfect, folks who've worked in prompt creativity know that I'm a big fan of mistakes and when things go wrong and pushing to failure and pushing to our edges. But every now and then when you get there, something happens and it feels magical, and that's what we're looking for. So that's what to put in with some background and some story about why it feels true to you.
Yep, exactly. And hashtag #CraftedAI. So you in? You all in? In?
Hey, Kyle,
Let's
I
get
got a
an
quick question
emoji, a
for
heart,
you.
a thumbs up, a little clap. Yeah, all right. Okay. All right.
Hey, Kyle, I got a quick question for you. When you're doing your workflow to make that video, was there any like tools that allowed you to work with like open pose, like to sort of like maybe dynamically change the pose and animate it to sort of your direction?
I didn't. There's a service, a site out there called Noisy, NOISEE.ai, that you upload a song to it and it will sort of read the lyrics and then it'll generate a series of images. It'll make a music video for that song. It only does it for a minute. So that's not what you're asking. I didn't mess with any of that. There's a Alibaba launched a model 2 weeks ago called EMO, EMO. And it is a much more sophisticated version of this animating a character than, so the tool I used was HeyGen. The Emo tool from Alibaba does a lot more animation, and it does really interesting things. Like when the character's not singing, it'll make eye contact and kind of like, you know, flirt with the camera while it's not singing, and then it sings and gets into it. So that's really interesting, but I think you have to install it yourself. You have to be a little geeky with it, but that's the only thing I've seen. I haven't played at all with sort of character rigging this stuff. Again, I was just trying to quickly put something together with tools I knew. So yeah. Dr. Brito.
Kyle, first of all, compliments on your presentation. That was terrific. You did something amazing. But I have got a couple of questions. One is, I want to compliment you about the one thing that has baffled me. When I make a presentation, I always end up with a blooper reel. And you know why? Because every human that I have generated invariably has more fingers on their hands than anatomically possible. So that is something you beautifully avoided it, because you do not show the hands at all. Exactly. Second question that I have is another thing which I discovered. I use things like HeyGen. I've used HeyGen to create videos with people. I try to avoid people, and I will tell you the reason why. It completely destroys productivity, because by the time you get everything correct and the person in the right pose and get all this done, you're wasting almost 2 or 3 days trying just to get that. So I just generate the images which tell my story. So storytelling is one of the things. And I also had an interesting adventure which I should share with you. One of my songs makes a reference to Wolf Blitzer. I think most of you know who that is, don't you? So I wanted an image of Wolf Blitzer from AI, and what I got was an actual wolf dressed up as a press reporter. So remember, you get some amazing surprises. The good news about that is, if I didn't use the name Wolf Blitzer, things would have been okay, because then, of course, people would catch on to it. I cannot be sued for image likeness. So be prepared for those kind of things.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon.
Just really quick, Kyle, I don't know if you wanted to touch on the play shop next Saturday before we turn things over.
Oh, I'll bring that up toward the end, but thank you. Awesome. Great. Okay, so we're gonna shift over to Kellye Kamp here in a second, but I want to share one final thing. A couple of news items that I think are worth talking about this week, or this session. Okay. GPT-5 watch. Nothing yet, but Sam Altman spoke this week at an event in London, and this slide that he has up behind him, he's talking about, you know, basically what's coming, and the 5 boxes there are multimodality, reasoning, personalization, reliability, and agents. And so you know, this is more informed speculation. It's still speculation, but I think GPT-5 or 4.5, whatever comes next, is gonna be more multimodal than it currently is. Reasoning is really important, right? Reasoning will start to help with things like hallucinations, where it can take a look at what it's created and ask questions like, is it good? Is it accurate? Things like that. So when these things get reasoning, they'll get much smarter. Personalization, again, I've seen that teased in a couple of places, where ChatGPT will be able to remember your conversations across chats, and your interactions will get increasingly personalized. Reliability, I assume, just going to work better because it's a mess right now. And then agents, where you know, these things will take actions on your behalf and be able to do things with other services. So I just thought it was an interesting slide to put up there. That's kind of some of the stuff coming. For OpenAI this past couple of weeks, you can now edit images directly in ChatGPT. If you click on an image, it'll take you to a page where there's a little paintbrush on a palette icon, and then you can paint in, you can do in painting in DALL-E images directly in ChatGPT. Today they announced a new version of GPT-4 Turbo that they said was greatly enhanced, but they didn't call it 4.5. But it's got the vision capability is now available in the API, and it wasn't before. But they said that new version of GPT-4 Turbo is going to be rolling out to ChatGPT. So I think that means larger context window and faster, and then maybe more capabilities. Bots, there's some interesting movement on the bot front. The ChatGPT store's been doing fine, whatever, but it's still not really a store. But Brandon pointed this out. If you create a Microsoft Copilot GPT, the GPT you create does not require someone using it to have a subscription. They can just use it. Similar with Poe, and any bot that you make on Poe, people can just use. And today they announced creator monetization on a per message basis. So if you've got some sort of GPT that's based on proprietary data and you think people be willing to pay for it, you can actually do that on a per message fee, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then finally, some other things that I thought were interesting. Intel announced a new AI chip to compete with NVIDIA. Grok announced version 1.5, the Twitter GPT that sucks. I still haven't seen it, but hopefully it'll be better. And then Google Gemini Pro 1.5, which is only available in the API Studio, aistudio.google.com, but you can use it. And they added, you can upload up to 9 hours of audio right now, and you don't need to transcribe it. It can just understand audio, and it also has JSON mode. So I thought that was those were some interesting tidbits worth paying attention to. So with that, I am pleased and excited to introduce Kellye Kamp. Hey, Kellye Kamp, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Kellye is the owner of Source Camp, an AI agency, and she's going to talk to us about what she's been learning over the past year. So Kellye, welcome, and thank you for speaking with us. We're excited to have you. Why don't we start out? Why don't you just give us your story? Tell us, you know, where you were and what made you lose your mind and decide to start an AI agency when everyone is telling you that the robots are going to kill us.
That's right. Well, I am, just to start out, I have been a serial entrepreneur most of my adult life. So starting a new company is kind of what I do. But when I went to college, I got out and I worked for advertising agencies here in Dallas, Texas for 12 years or so, and worked my way up through the ranks until I achieved senior creative director position. And I loved it. And I ended up moving to a different state, a different market. And it wasn't really big enough. There was only one agency there, and I worked for them for a year, and I was ready for something new, but there was nowhere else to go. So I ended up in construction, of all things, residential construction, which sounds like
let me get as far away from agency life as I can.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Actually, it was the only option I had. So I ran with it. But what is interesting is I found out after doing construction for 15 plus years is that it's exactly the same as being a creative director. I had budgets to put together for clients. I had to create a vision for people that really didn't know what they wanted. I had to work with a team of creatives to create this thing that didn't exist before, and manage the entire creative process. So it was really very, very parallel careers, which is interesting. But I eventually moved back to Dallas, And I was really missing those advertising, marketing, creative days. And I thought, okay, I exited as a senior creative director. I'll just throw my hat back in the ring and I'll get something quickly. And what I realized very fast is that I had been out just long enough that I had missed the entire digital age of marketing and advertising.
Oh.
And it suddenly...
What were the years when you were doing construction?
Probably like early 2000 to 2015.
Yeah, so the whole social media, the birth of social media.
Yes, the whole thing. And I, obviously I'd heard about digital marketing and I was like, I know what an SEO is. And, I felt like I knew enough. But when I really started talking to these different agencies, I realized that I would fallen so far behind and they were so many laps ahead of me that there was really no catching up. And I was a little bit older too. So that was also a struggle of trying to convince them that you need to hire somebody older in a very young environment where they sort of thrive on fresh, new ideas and people. And I kind of found that I wasn't very marketable anymore. And that was a shock to the system. And I spent a couple of months trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And that's about the time that ChatGPT dropped. And I saw the writing on the wall. Number one, not even knowing anything about it, I thought, this is a new technology. I know it's going to be huge. And I am not in a position age-wise to fall behind again because I may not ever catch up. So that was my driving force, was I've got to learn this technology. I can't be left behind again. And it also gave me a passion to bring others that were a little bit older, that maybe didn't grow up in the technology age, that would be a little bit hesitant to jump on the bandwagon of learning new technology. I thought, that's my audience. That's who I want to speak to. And just show them that, hey, it doesn't matter how old you are. You can still learn a new trick. Old dogs can still learn new tricks. And not only can you learn it, but you really need to be learning it, or you will definitely be left behind. And you're going to be left behind a lot faster than I was. It took me about 15 years, but now it's, maybe 5 years, maybe less. So that's my why, is I just don't want to be left behind.
Yeah, it's beautiful. When did you discover ChatGPT? Was it when it first came out? Like, why were you looking in that direction, right? Why was it, like, what put it in front of you?
Well, I'd heard rumors about this AI, that was coming out, and I'd always had an interest in technical things. Like the whole time I was in this other market, these 15 years, I was passionate about nanotechnology. It just fascinated me. It was something unknown, and I'm very curious, and I wanted to know all about it. And it was something that nobody seemed to know much about, and it was doing these miraculous things with medicine and cosmetics, and it just, it touched on every field. And that really turns me on, is to learn a little bit about a lot of different things. And so when I heard ChatGPT was coming out, I got on actually the very first day and signed up. And I've just been diving into it ever since.
What was so before we I want you to talk about your agency and what you're learning, but if you can teleport back, do a little time travel, go back to the first, 2 weeks, month, that when you first were using ChatGPT, did you have a big amazing epiphany? Describe those early days and like what sort of nailed it for you, that holy crap, this is different? Or
Yes, I think I had a fairly typical experience. I mean, the first time I dabbled with it, I had no idea what to do with it, of course. So I was asking it questions that it really couldn't answer, like, how do you cure cancer, or something like that. And of course, I got a terrible reply, and I thought, oh, okay, I don't really understand what this is or what it's supposed to do. But I was curious enough that I saw an online course on prompt engineering, and I actually have a degree in technical and creative writing. So I've always liked writing, and I've always been good at writing. And I thought, well, prompt engineering, that's writing. Maybe that's a way I can transition my skill sets. So I took this course, and that is really what opened me up to all the possibilities. The examples they were giving us of ways to use, like write a story for your kid at dinner time and he likes Pokemon, but you're serving mashed potatoes and he hates mashed potatoes. So gamify the experience so he can build a wall of mashed potatoes and learn about math at the same time. You know, that exercise really was the one that I went, oh my gosh, there's never been anything like this before. And so from that point on, I was hooked. And I just thought, you know what, I'm at a time in my life, I can pivot, I can go do whatever I want to do. And I think this is the future. And I know how to do an agency. I know how to run crews. I know how to work with different people and put projects together. So I just dove in.
Amazing. Amazing. So talk about what was the journey? How long did it take you from, okay, here's ChatGPT, I think I'm going to pivot or I'm going to lean in here. How long between that and when you started your agency? Like what was that journey?
Well, so Chat came out in November of 22. And by June of 23, I had pretty much abandoned everything else I was doing and just launched headfirst into AI.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. So talk about the agency. It's called Source Camp. Yep.
Source Camp. Yes. So I'd actually had the name of this company before, and I knew I wanted some kind of an agency, but I wasn't really sure what it was. And this is before ChatGPT had dropped. So I wasn't thinking AI whatsoever. I was thinking, okay, I love to do brainstorming sessions and focus groups and things like that. And I really love business. I like to dig into other people's businesses and find out how I can make it, improve on it or make their systems and processes better. So that's how it started out. And then, of course, as I got more familiar with ChatGPT and all the tools it could do, I thought, oh, this is the new kind of agency. Like this is going to be able to do a lot of different things, not just marketing and advertising, but really help businesses in all kinds of areas without having to find completely different companies to work with for each different product or problem that they were trying to solve. So not that you can be all things to all people, but I don't know, with AI, maybe you can.
I know. And so how's it been going? Like what's going on?
It's going well. It's like any new business. It's no different, AI or not. It's hard to start a new business, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of grinding and marketing and looking for clients and putting teams together and just plus figuring out these tools. That's been the biggest challenge, is keeping up with which tool do I need to be learning and what can it do and how do I apply that to what my clients are needing. So it's kind of been challenging to start a new company on one level, and then it's a whole nother level to learn new technology and tools that are going to promote that business. So,
that's hilarious. Yeah, it's a
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. You're having to learn a lot. Do me a favor. One of the things that you and I have talked about sometimes, I think you've got a particularly good knack for this. Can you share with everyone, sort of dig into a bit of detail of when you meet with a group for the first time, you've got a particular cadence of parlor tricks that you walk them through. You sort of build the drama well. Can you walk everyone through, what parlor tricks are and then sort of how you do that?
Sure. So just knowing that, throughout my entire career, my focus has always been on the user experience. It's just a natural ability of mine, is to figure out, okay, if I'm somebody who's never seen this before, knows nothing about this industry, how do I communicate with them? Whether that was construction, I used to have a trucking company, advertising, I've done a lot of different things. So I'm very sensitive to communicating with people about things that they don't know anything about. So I decided Kyle had mentioned one night parlor tricks in one of our evening sessions. And I thought, I think I need to put together a whole piece of parlor tricks, just to kind of have in my back pocket as I'm talking to people at the grocery store or wherever, at the bank, wherever I'm at, I'm talking about AI to everybody I meet, and they're quite annoyed. So I thought it'd be fun if I had just a set of parlor tricks that I could pull out, a different tool for different people at any given time. So I put together this pretty comprehensive list of things that would appeal to most people. And now that I'm starting to do more speaking engagements, and I've done a seminar and a webinar, I use these tricks a lot. And what I find is, like Kyle says, play, 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 and then share. And so when you break things down, you take this scary technology and you put it into a game or something fun that people can relate to. They're much more open to hearing about it. In fact, when I did a speaking engagement last week and started with these little parlor tricks, and I literally saw their shoulders from this to just starting to relax because it wasn't so scary, and it was something they could relate to, and it was something they could take home tonight and try themselves. So I think that's just really critical. That's the first wall we have to break down when we're even going to have a basic conversation with people about AI.
Yeah. And what are can you share some of the parlor tricks?
I can. So a little formula that I've been using lately is I start out and I just say, we're going to just write a little story about Bob. And I tweak it to, whatever industry or group I'm talking to. But last week I spoke to the Fort Worth Builders Association. And if any of you know anything about construction, builders are the absolute last people to adopt any kind of technology whatsoever. I mean, they're still running their businesses with a notepad and paper and a pen, and nothing is digital. So I kind of took that and I said, we're going to write a story about Bob, and Bob is a contractor and he's going to be on his job site. And Bob has to get from work to home in time for dinner, but on the way home, he encounters a series of catastrophes that make him very, very late. And by the way, he's got to pick up his 2 kids on the way home from school as well. And so it just writes this little short, I tell it at 350 words. It writes this 350-word story about Bob, that he got a flat tire, and then there was a downpour, and then there was a traffic jam, and all of these series of things that make him late. So once I've got the story written, I go, okay, now let's, that's a long story. Let's not read all of that. Let's just have it paraphrased. So I'll say, paraphrase this story about Bob, which it does. And then I'll say, now let's put it into bullet points. And it puts it into bullet points. And of course, it's in real time. It's super fast. And people are just astounded that it's just formatting for them. So that tells me right there, okay, they really they've never looked at this before.
Just that it's adding bullet points is a revelation.
Revelation. And I'm going, oh, wow, just wait till we've been in this thing for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's how I really start out. It's something very, very simple, but I take that original story about Bob and I just keep building on it for the next hour. So eventually we're going to do a poem about Bob. We're going to put all of the things that Bob could have done to prevent these catastrophes, as well as the time he would have saved had he prevented it, and if there were any costs associated with these disasters. And I put all of that data in a spreadsheet. So again, in real time, they're seeing this thing just crank out a spreadsheet in 2 seconds flat. And I explain, I didn't have to build the spreadsheet. I didn't have to put the formulas behind each cell. I just had to give it whatever data that I wanted, and it'll create a spreadsheet for you. And I'm doing all of this in 3.5. So I'm
so fast and
super
it's
fast.
Also available to everyone.
And it's free.
Yeah.
And I say, so you can take this home and you can play with this tonight. You can write a story for your kids and your grandkids, or you can write an apology letter to your wife, or you can, whatever you want to do with it. Or if you've got a shopping list and you want to put it in a spreadsheet form, just go home and take these tools and play with them. And I actually have them download the app in class because there are a lot of counterfeits, and I don't want them to get home and be even more frustrated that they've gotten the wrong one.
That's
so great. I'm very proactive with them. And within the first, I would say 15 minutes, they're smiling, their shoulders are down, they're having fun, they're wanting to ask a million questions. And I have to say, just, we have to hold our questions till the end or we'll never get through all of this. But they're engaged pretty quickly just because I think I've taken the fear out of it.
Well, that's great. Leah, I'd love to have you jump in and ask a question here. If anyone has questions for Kellye, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. And then, Leah, I'd love to hear if you have a question for Kellye.
Well, I have like 3 hours of time let's have with Kellye.
We'll talk later.
Okay, great. So I have a question, and this is something I've been thinking a lot of my own. I just did a really deep dive rebrand for my photography. It was fantastic. But I am starting to pick up lots of these kind of like disparate AI consulting gigs, right? Someone needs an hour or two of prompt crafting, or someone just wants to get lunch and talk about AI, and people are coming to me with all kinds of questions. And I feel like they're all over the place, right? And I'm curious about, from a creative director's perspective, how are you, what is your, like, the brand of your agency? Like, how are you reining in all the possibilities of AI work that you could do to determine like who your ideal client is? How are you, it's actually really basic business stuff, but I feel like it's become even more important with AI because there are so many directions AI can take us as a business owner.
There are. And I wish I could say, you know, I have figured out exactly what my lane is and I'm staying in it.
Great, cool, good.
You know, we're here in Texas and we've got the mix masters where there's like 27 lanes coming together and they're crisscrossing.
Right.
I'm in the middle of the mix master right now.
Okay, great.
But what is interesting is the way I'm finding my clients is they're actually finding me. As they're having conversations within their business or individually thinking, I know I've got to jump on board and I've got to learn AI and I don't know how to start. And if they know me personally or through somebody else, then they're reaching out to me because, you know, they see me on LinkedIn or they just heard conversations or they probably heard me in the grocery store talking to some stranger about it. And so they're calling me. So that's kind of an easier platform to launch from. But the people that are coming to me are from all over the place. So it's been really a great challenge, a fun challenge for me to take each individual project and client and say, okay, let me dig into this huge toolbox that I have and let me figure out which tools I need to use to solve the problem.
It's interesting. It's great. And are you finding that in terms of workload, have you created AI systems to do the work for you, or are you bringing contractors on and crew members and people who know how to use the AI systems to do the work for you?
Right now, I'm creating my own systems just to get my head and my arms around as this grows and scales. How am I going to manage all of this? Right now, I'm building my own systems. So I'm, you know, where do I save my prompts and where do I save all of the materials that or documents that I'm creating or the work that I'm creating? I've got to store that somewhere. And, you know, Dropbox just isn't what it used to be for these types of projects. So I'm having to get very creative and figure out how to do the storage.
That's why you have Post-it notes.
Oh gosh, yeah, no Post-it notes for me. I would get nothing done if I had to write it.
AI Post-it notes. Yeah.
AI Post-it notes.
I do have that. Everything's digital, so that's good. But in the background, I am building this agency. I am approaching it exactly like I did in construction. So when I was in construction, because I didn't know anything about construction, I just had to reinvent myself, and that's what was given to me. But I would go around town and I would go to the paint store and I would say, okay, who do you think the best painter in town is?
Smart.
Who comes in and never has to come back and forget materials? Like, he's organized, he gets everything the first time, he pays his bills on time, he's neat. You know, who's that guy? And you're going to hear the same name over and over.
That's right.
So I would call that guy and I would say, just tell me what you charge. Tell me what you charge, and I'm going to build that into my bid. And then, I always did cost plus as a contractor. So it's like whatever it cost me plus my percentage. And that way it was honest, it was transparent. I didn't have to worry about what I told somebody. I didn't have to worry about hiding information from my client. So that's how I'm approaching this agency, is I'm going out and I'm finding who are the players that I need. Do I need a programmer? Do I need a copywriter? Do I need an SEO expert or a marketing expert? And so I use ChatGPT to help me, of course. But I've got my list of contractors, and then I'm in the process of just going out and finding who the best are. But that's what's great about this community, is that I probably have everybody I need within this group.
Right.
You most definitely do. There's no doubt. I think I really appreciate what you said about, you know, I come from a commercial photography background, and production is very standardized, right? That when I do a commercial photo shoot, it's the same people on the bid every single time. And it's different people who play that role, but there's always a hair and makeup person. There's always a crew. There's always a first assistant. And I think what I find so interesting about this work is how I think we're actually sort of redefining the roles of the crew that we need to help do the AI projects, and how what's exciting about this community is watching in real time the roles that are being created and the crew, that the new roles that are being created with the crew that we never even knew existed, but the stuff that does need to get done in the context of an agency. It's really cool.
Yeah, very.
Okay, Kellye, we'll keep talking. I don't want to take up all the time because I see hands raised with amazing questions as well.
Great. And we'll come back to you, Leah. Small Tech. I forget your name, but Small Tech is your label, so that's what we're going with. You're muted. Bottom left icon.
Hello? Oh,
No.
nope.
There you go.
All right, just need to do settings. Yeah, not really a question, but more of like something that I showed my mom. And she is very excited about ChatGPT. I told her that you can prompt it to say you are a 30+ year writer and do this for me, you know? So I told her to do that, and she's a Kevin McAllister moment, you know? So she's amazed by it.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Great.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
I've been doing bits and pieces of some interesting stuff. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Brandon. Thank you.
Yeah, so Kellye, it's fascinating as always. I'm just curious how you're dealing with kind of that they don't know that they have cancer. Like you have the cure for cancer, and you're trying to tell everybody, and your kind of law of attraction says you're bringing people into you that are looking for you. Have you figured out a way to introduce to the people who don't know that they need the services yet? Is it parlor tricks? Is it just education and putting your content out there? And what's the hook that gets somebody to that moment where they're like, oh, I do need to take this seriously. This isn't just the next crypto wave that's going to crash and burn in a couple weeks.
Right. You know, I've found that I'm less and less starting with the AI conversation. As far as businesses go, I'm dealing with what problem are you trying to solve? And I'm tending to leave AI out of that initial conversation because people are so nervous about it. And I find that it doesn't put them at ease because I'm not even mentioning it at first. But then I'll say, oh, that's a very interesting problem. Have you ever thought about, using some of these tools like, and I usually say ChatGPT because most people don't know what machine learning is, but I'll say, have you used a tool like that? And they're like, yeah, usually they're like, no, not really. Or I played with it. I don't know much about it. And that's when I start to pull out the parlor tricks. But at this point, the people that are reaching out to me are looking for AI. So it's I have about 3 different conversations going with people, really. Those who I don't mention AI at all, unless they bring it up to me. People who are interested, but they're timid and they don't know how to start. And then people that know they have to have it and they're ready to jump in.
That makes sense. So you're marketing yourself more as a problem solver than an AI specialist.
Correct. It's all about solving the problem first. And then AI is just the tool to help me.
Yeah. Great.
That's good.
Thanks.
Have any of your parlor tricks conversations turned into clients or opportunities?
Yes, they have. A couple of them have turned into opportunities, which is great. But I'll tell you, I had one today that was a hard no.
Oh yeah. Oh, do tell. Let's hear the train wreck. All right, we want train wrecks.
So my father is a member of an Alzheimer's group, and I've gone to a couple of meetings with him, and I met the director, and she, said, oh, I've heard all about you, and I guess you're doing AI, and I'm really curious about it. So we had this amazing 20-minute conversation after the meeting about AI. And I said, I would love to come and just show you kind of what it does, and it could help you with your programs and, help you with your own workload. And she's like, yes, let's do that. So it's taken 4 months. She's canceled on me a couple of times. I finally reached out to her again a couple of days ago. She emailed me today and she flat out said, we're not ready to know this.
Really? Did you get any more information than that?
She said, we have to vet information that we share with others first.
Yeah.
And I wrote back and I said, I'm not offering that. I'm just offering to help you internally with your own processes. And she literally said, we're not ready.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yes.
Alex Mullier.
Hey, Kelly. Yeah, thanks for presenting. I'm in a similar position. I'm actually a CTO for an IT consulting firm. And so we're doing this all day, left and right, up and down, selling to either clients or new clients, et cetera. And we have to break out parlor tricks as well. And one of the hardest things right now is definitely AI. And what we're finding is that when people want AI, they actually come to us as opposed to us telling them about it. So what we found is plant the seed, right? And it's just going to happen naturally as it progresses, simply because they don't know what they want until they know what they want. And so it's very brave of you to go out of your way to show companies this, because they're going to need it no matter what. And it's very intriguing that you're future proofing as a result. So I commend you.
Thank you. And it's a slow grind. It's going to take time for people to kind of wake up. And I think it's going to be a different journey for everybody, right? But at some point, I think most people are going to wake up and go, oh my gosh, I've got to know this. Who do I know that knows this? So it's coming. I feel that there's a tidal wave that's coming in the future. I just don't know when that's going to be.
Faster than we know.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone has questions, just raise your hand and I'll bring you up. Leah, any other? You seem like you had a few more, so let's give you another shot.
Well, I want to make sure everyone who has questions gets theirs answered. I see a few more hands raised, so let's grab those. And if we have some time, great. And if not, Kelly and I can follow up.
Okay, cool. Great. Kenneth Connor.
You also know me as Laughing Thunder.
Oh, nice. Hey, Laughing Thunder. What's happening?
Hi. I am retired, and I am not really mentally or any other way set up to be able to work more than just occasionally. However, and I am not one of those people who can say, well, when you want to talk about AI, I am an expert in blah, blah, blah. I am a generalist, and I spend hours a day learning more tools. There you go. Do you have any suggestions for how I might get a little extra income as a generalist and as someone who could be relied upon to go out and just figure it out behind the scenes?
Well, yes, there's a million ways to do it, and then there's like no way to do it all at the same time. I think as a general, and I don't know what your background is or what your skill sets are, what you did before you retired, but I know that I think just having fun and playing with it. I don't know about how much you'll be able to charge for whatever it is you decide to do. That's something I think we're all trying to figure out right now. That's definitely been my biggest challenge, is how do I charge? Because all my projects are so radically different. It's not like construction where I can charge by the square foot and it's easy to figure out. I don't know if a project's going to take me 2 hours or 10 hours, or if I need to bring in 3 other people. So I'm learning all of that. But what did you do in your previous career?
I spent 40 odd years in programming, database analysis, systems design, integration, just basically anything to do with computers.
Wow.
And mostly within the transit industry.
Okay.
And my only recent effort has been, I have an article published in American Mensa on co-writing with an AI. So I have reasonably good communication skills, even for a computer dweeb. I also I'm a widely ranged set of skills. I read a lot, and I just really, if you talked with me a few minutes about something, I'd be saying, "Oh, you mean we could do it that way? You're talking about this, aren't you?" And it wouldn't hardly matter what we were talking about.
Right. I think if you've got experience with transportation, I mean, I think you could easily be a consultant, especially because everyone who's in transportation right now, I used to have a trucking company, even though that's small potatoes, but it's transportation and it's crossing state lines and it's, all of the regulations and changing regulations and construction of roadways. I mean, there's just so much you could do, but I think you could easily be a consultant for transportation companies in using the power of AI to help them do data analysis or help them write a new code or help them create a new app for their users. I mean, there's so many opportunities. And again, as a consultant, it's not like you have to do the 9 to 5, show up at the office every day. And so many people are working remotely anyway. And as a consultant, you could say, well, here's, what challenge are you trying to solve? Let me help you solve that. And then like me, you've just got your AI tools in the background that are going to help you do it more faster and more efficiently and quicker. So that could be a good way you could do it.
Yeah, that's really good. Charlie Brewer just said, great background. You can take your industry sector and start with a series of opportunities and myths of AI in transportation, right? Explainer for executives. Yeah, that's a great idea. Really good. Great. Rhonda.
So Kellye, speaking of a person over the age of 50, all right, let's not call names or numbers here. How are you being received by folks that are Gen X, that are Gen Z, that are millennial? I just did a deep dive of ChatGPT with my grandchildren who are all teenagers. And P.S. I know so much more than them. But a couple of them are like, I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right.
And so for me, it was important for me because I feel like you. I don't want to be left behind because I don't have time to catch up. Right. So are you finding older people are like saying, okay, or are you finding more open opportunities?
I think the Gen Xers are a little more open to learning and are more curious. One, I think because we just have natural curiosity, because when we were kids, we had to be creative and figure out how we were going to spend 8 hours playing outside in the heat or the cold, right? So we had that creativity and that curiosity to learn things and explore things and didn't have parents hovering over us all the time telling us don't do that or don't try that. We were feral children. So I think that's to our benefit. I actually have a lot of girlfriends who have college age children, teenagers to, high 20s, and they're very opposed to AI. And so I've kind of done my own little research project interviewing these kids saying, why are you not interested in AI? And all of the college students that I have talked to have said, our teachers have put so much fear into us about using AI for our schoolwork that we're terrified of it.
Wow. That's sad.
And that has been the consistent answer.
Really?
Yes.
That's so sad.
It is very sad.
It's actually fucked up.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
So again,
my teenagers are concerned about their image already being out there and being used for AI.
Yeah.
So my eldest granddaughter was like, how can I protect myself? Because I don't want my image fed through AI.
Right. Right.
I think that the Gen Z kids are I find them to be very, very protective of information. And they have grown up in a moment in time where they see the AI as a potential, even like an amplification, even more of the stuff that they're already kind of freaked out about, how much of their information is online. They're very savvy, smart group.
Right.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ann Murphy.
Hey, everybody. Kellye,
Rand-
I'm
Rand
so
Murphy.
excited to see evolution of where you're going with this. And I just love it, love every part of it. What I wanted to chime in with is I loved what you asked, Kenneth, because where my head is at with all this now is for people who have subject matter expertise. And right now we're dealing with inbound, which is delightful. However, you do get this complete randomness, right? When people show up on your doorstep because they think that they know what they need, everything it's just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And we have a high tolerance for it because, like ADHD culture in our company. But we won't always. It's not lucrative to do all the things. But what I'm finding is that with each of these like little forays into different corners, we have to like look around and scramble for who our team is going to be for this project. And there just aren't enough people. And I don't know how, and I'm in like here and AI Exchange and like dabble on all those weird Discords and stuff. But there always comes this moment where I'm like, shit, if the clients come back and say they want XYZ thing, like in the length of time since I sent the proposal, I may not have the people for it. And part of that is that because my AI skills, it's like I didn't grow up with this. I'm a leisure studies major and dumb fundraiser. And so I don't know how to evaluate sometimes whether somebody would be a good contractor or subcontractor. So like, Kenneth, just hearing you tell your story for like 2 minutes, I'm like, oh, I could think of like 10 different areas where I would love to, see if you would be a good fit. Like when you said co-writing, I'm like, that's exactly what we need for this one client. I can't find anybody in the nonprofit space who has that skill set. And I'm currently unwilling to train them more than I do train the public for free. But I don't know, Kellye, if as you've been building your teams, finally getting around to my question, which is, as you've been building your teams, how are you finding your people?
Again, it's word of mouth. I'm asking, who do you know that's really, really great at this?
Okay.
And that's usually the best way to find people. I mean, right now, I actually have a project that I did have to pivot at the last second. I had a developer I was working with, and he wasn't able to finish my project. That happens.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I've had to pivot, and I'm having to go, just on Upwork or somewhere and put it out there. But what I did, just because I've been in this position many, many times before in both advertising and construction, is I talked with my developer and I said, I need you to give me instructions for the next person. If you're not able to finish this project, then you need to help me so that we maintain our relationship. My personal relationships always come before work. I'm never going to let work ruin a good friendship. Or just a relationship. So he did. He was very gracious and he said, I will absolutely help you. And he gave me all the documentation that he had created. And so I'm not starting from scratch. And it's taken me years to learn to do that and not just go, oh my gosh, I've got to start from square one, because that would be a disaster. But you pivot, and that's why I'm always on the search before I take projects for the good copywriter, for the good SEO person, for the good marketer, for the, whatever.
Yeah.
Get those teams lined up before you actually need them. And I also like to stack 2 or 3 back, for each position, because life happens.
Yep. Yeah. The lack of redundancy is a little scary.
Yes. There's so many people out there who are looking for work, so it shouldn't be hard to find people.
Putting an exclamation point on that. The lack of redundancy. I think that was really well said.
Yeah. Thanks. And keep on going, Kellye. This is awesome. I'm so happy for you and so proud of you.
Thank you. Good. And I want to circle back to Kenneth real quick. Kenneth, you might be a great candidate for a digital twin. You have so much knowledge and in your head, and that's not gone away. The talent that you spent years and years developing is still there. And I think having a digital twin would be, or a GPT, whatever you want to call it, would be an amazing way. And I've already been working with some people on this, is to somehow cultivate your knowledge and put it out there to where people could use your knowledge.
Yep.
And you could charge for that, I think. And I think that's coming down the road as well.
Yep, I agree with that. I think it's great. Chip Huggins.
Hi, Chip.
Hey, how's it going, y'all? So my question, lately I've been taking courses on Coursera.org to learn particular functionalities in Microsoft Excel and such, and it's been very useful information. I've been actually very pleasantly surprised by the quality of the instruction on Coursera.org. But one question that just keeps on nagging at me in the back of my mind is whether or not there's even any point in learning this material, because it feels like AI is becoming so sophisticated that pretty soon you won't even need a human to do these kinds of tasks. So, I'm just wondering what y'all's thoughts are on that, whether or not, certain technologies, or it's getting to the point now where really the only technology that's worthwhile for studying for a human is artificial intelligence.
Good point. My very first course that turned me on to AI was a Coursera course, and it was an excellent program. So I think anytime we're learning, and Kyle says this often, is when we're playing, we're learning, and when we're learning, we're just lapping the competition, right? I mean, not to be, so harsh about it, but I feel like I'm certainly not an expert, but it depends on who you're comparing my knowledge to. I mean, if there's somebody who's never used it before, I am laps ahead of them, right? And they're probably not going to be able to catch up with me. So I never think it's wrong to keep learning something. And second of all, I've written several articles about AI and technology and what's changing and how it's going to affect us. But the thing that I rarely hear anybody talk about is, you hear human in the loop, but what I don't hear is humanity. And humanity is not going away. And we are built and created a certain way to want and need certain things in our lives, including each other. And even though, the younger generations are all about their texting and their heads are in their phones and their thumbs are probably twice the size as they should be, there's nothing that's going to replace humanity and our connection to each other. So I think even at the end of the day, even if technology goes further than humans are comfortable with on the whole, I think humans will always push back. It doesn't happen often, but it's happened in the past. We get to a point where like, no, we're not going to tolerate that. We're not doing this anymore. And humans will start to take over. And I know the machines are learning and they're getting smarter, and maybe there will come a day that they can think on their own, but we're not there yet. And again, I think that human factor is so critical to this whole equation that we're just not discussing it. But I'm always going to need this community. I'm always going to need a friend. I'm always going to need my family. And no matter what AI does or takes over, it's never going to replace my relationships.
Yep. The other thing that I would toss in there is, learning skills. Even if the AI is doing the tactical execution of that, the fact that you've got that skill, right? If, Kenneth knows transportation, if Kellye knows construction and advertising, she's going to be able to look at the output of the AI and go, oh, that's good. Oh, that's a piece of crap, right? That judgment comes from experience and comes from expertise and learning. So, maybe just don't spend a lot of time learning the tactical execution tools if those are going to be fully automated, but spend a lot of time understanding, why do you build software? How do you build software? Or whatever the thing is you're interested in, and learn those skills maybe at sort of the next abstraction up is my thought.
And I think it's really important to think about what you want to be an expert in, because you're interested in it. And then AI tools is going to take care of the tactical work, right? I'm still a photographer. I still think about photography. I can now make images using generative AI tools that look a lot like the images I can make not using generative AI tools. But at the end of the day, those photographs are still my photographs because they look like my photographs. They look the way I want. And that's with 20 years of expertise as a photographer. That doesn't mean I can't do other things really well, but because I'm an expert at that, I can use AI tools to amplify that. And so someone just commented they're training AI models with experience. Thanks. But I do think that, like, what is it that what are you excited about? And I think AI does allow us to push towards what we're really excited about, what we want to become experts in, and then figure out how to use those AI tools to support that.
Yeah.
That's the line I say anyway. We'll see. Okay.
I actually heard a conversation a couple of days ago about this very topic. And the gentleman who was speaking said, people are always going to want customization. There's always going to be a market for artistry. It may come in a different form, but it's always going to be there. And the example he used was, Bill has a record company and, from the 1960s. And he said, I'm always going to have a business because people will always want music. And that's true. They no longer want a 12-inch LP.
Right.
So that business model may go out of style, but the music industry is still alive and well. It's just in a different format. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're transitioning into is people are still going to want certain things that touch their souls, right? That a machine may or may not be able to produce, but what we're wanting and needing for our souls may come in a different package than what we're used to seeing.
Yep. Exactly.
That's great. Rhonda.
Last quick question from me. So are you doing corporate trainings? Are you going into corporate kind of do? And so if you do that, can you give me like the top 3 takeaways of what they are the most hungry for at their base knowledge base and what they're asking you to do and perform and how you're responding to those requests?
Mm-hmm. So right now I've got one particular company I'm just starting to work with. We're very early into we've had 4 or 5 meetings and we're still trying to figure out what our relationship looks like. But they have a business process that they're selling to like CPA firms, and they're using large language models. I mean, not large language. They're using machine learning to take data and funnel it and give them output in a very easy to read process. So instead of having to dig through their QuickBooks and try to figure out if they're going to make money for the rest of the year or if they're going to be out of business by next year if they don't improve, they have a business model that just does that for their clients. What they're learning, though, is because it's using AI, there's, again, kind of a bit of a disconnect when they're talking to their clients about this process. And I mean, it's done in a way that that's their calling card is we're using machine learning to do this. But there is a disconnect in how do we communicate what we're doing to our clients without scaring them, and to actually showcase how well our process works. So we're in communications right now about doing some lunch and learns or seminars together so that I can come in and sort of use my parlor tricks and come in with a softer message and speak to that side of it and just give them a glimpse into what's happening in the background. Not enough because nobody wants to spend hours and hours learning about machine learning, just to run their CPA firm. But if we can just show them some of these little tricks and tools about this is how fast it can generate something, right? This is how fast it can write a story about Bob that's pretty detailed. Then they're going, oh, that's how you're able to do it so quickly, right? So we're pairing together in that way. It's like, how do we communicate how we're able to do what we do without telling them all, how do you make the sausage without knowing how to make the sausage?
Right. Wow.
That's one case study.
Danielle.
Oh, interesting.
Hey, I just want to share real quick about how Kellye really is using her background. I mentioned in the chat how she saved me from dodging a $4,000 bullet when I was trying to find a contractor, and how she was so empowering to me. And because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, because becoming a business owner. And she just was like, no, you're going to do this. You're going to say it like this. And you're not going to give them, you're not going to explain why you're doing it. Because I had to get my keys back from a contractor who didn't have their freaking license anymore because he didn't have the insurance anymore. And I was going to write this fool a check and he had the key to my business because I was a fool. and I thought I was going to hire him. And she's like, she gave me the script of what to say. I didn't explain myself. I got my key back and it was over with. And I had to kiss her ass. I didn't have to, but I did, because I'm so grateful to her. I'm so grateful to her because she's so empowering as a human being. And an AI comes secondary to this. She is just, as a human being, she knows what she's doing. And anyone who decides to work with her should be grateful.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Danielle.
That's awesome. All right. So last question, Leah.
My last question is, what's one thing every single one of us on this call can do in the next 3 days that can help us take our next step to what we want to do with AI?
Good.
Wow. One thing you can do, I would say choose the tool of your liking, or maybe choose a tool you've never used before. That might be better.
Excellent.
And just try something. Try to solve some problem or create something fun that you just never had the courage to do before.
I love it. What an awesome, awesome way to wrap up a very inspiring hour, Kellye. This was magnificent. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration.
Thank you.
Yeah, really awesome. Thank you, Kellye. And I think a well-deserved golf clap from everyone. So please,
Kellye.
It wouldn't be complete if we didn't have the golf clap. Leah,
Kellye,
this is just awesome. Kellye, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Kellye, if you have a link to find you online outside LinkedIn, a link to your site, a link to wherever people can find you to learn more, please put it in the chat. Okay, great.
Great.
All right.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leah. As always.
Thank you, Kyle.
Eric has his hand raised.
I just have a real quick question. Kellye, you said you've written multiple articles about AI. Are they posted in the salon? And if not, is there a place that are you comfortable sharing them?
Sure. They're actually all on LinkedIn.
Okay. Find you on LinkedIn. Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All
Thanks,
right.
sir.
Well, as always, another fine, inspiring salon. Thank you, Kellye, so much. Thank you all for your participation and great questions. And we'll see you later. Have a great night.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. See you later.